Welcome back to our study of the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. From literary, philosophical, and religious theological perspectives, leaning heavily on the scholarship of Dr. Michael Ward. You see his Planet Narnia in the background. In today's lecture, we move on to the third volume, the third chronicle, and the third corresponding planet, Sol, or the sun. More about light and liberality, these images from Sol later on in the lecture. Last time we discussed Prince Caspian and its corresponding planet, or the planet associated with Prince Caspian, according to Michael Ward, Mars. Today we move on to the sun. And to start off, Ward notes how Sol's state in the medieval cosmology is a bit confused. There's a surprise here, and the peculiarity arises from the fact that the sun is actually worshipped in Egyptian mythology and by some Native Americans. It is very dominant. Why is it not more dominant in European imagination? It's not even called the Fortuna Minor, the planet of lesser fortune, let alone Fortuna Major, the planet of greater fortune. For some 1800 years, it was at the center of the universe. But still, it's below Jupiter, and it's even below Venus in the European imagination. Why is this so? This is noted also in The Discarded Image, Lewis's introduction to medieval and Renaissance literature, and I read from page 106. Sol is the point at which the concordat between the mythical and the astrological nearly breaks down. Mythically, Jupiter is the king, but Sol produces the noblest metal, gold, and is the eye and mind of the whole universe. Despite its confused state, Lewis was very happy to use Sol, just like he was to use Mars in Fortuna Minor. And just like he is, we will discuss this later, he's happy to use the planet Saturn in Fortuna Major. He has a good alibi for using Sol, according to Ward, and that is Lewis's love of Plato. For Plato, sun is the image of good with a capital G. And in primitive Christianity, the early church, these sun gods could be very easily Christianized. For example, Apollo in Greek myth, Sol Invictus in Roman myth. In fact, many people believe that or suspect that the month of December was chosen deliberately simply to replace Sol Invictus. And so it's probably correct. We remember that Lewis described himself as jovial by temperament. His earliest interest was martial, but the solar interest is very early too. In Surprised by Joy, his spiritual autobiography, he quotes, "I heard a voice that cried, 'Balder the Beautiful is dead, is dead.'" What Surprised by Joy does not tell you is Balder is the Norse counterpart of the god Helios, Helios being the Greek forerunner of Sol. Lewis says that he loved Balder before Christ, although he thought that Christ was more than Balder. These are direct quotes from his essay, Myth Became Fact. Lewis also believed, even to the end of his life, that Balder's similarity to Christ worked in Christ's favor. It did not jeopardize it or water it down. In Lewis's poetry, to which we turn next, Balder morphs into Sol. And let me quote. Let me read from the discarded image again. Sol produces the noblest metal, gold, and is the eye and mind of the whole universe, as we heard. He makes men wise and liberal, and his sphere is the heaven of theologians and philosophers. We learned this in an earlier lecture too. Though he is no more metallurgical than any other planet, his metallurgical operations are more often mentioned than theirs. We read in John Donne's Allofanes and Hideous how soil, which the sun could make into gold, may lie too far from the surface for his beams to take effect. Edmund Spenser's Mammon brings his hoard out to sun it. He suns it that it may become gold. Sol produces fortunate events. Sol produces fortunate events, but it's still not called the planet of lesser or greater fortune. Notice how in the center stage here is Sol's orifying ability, its gold-making influence. And this is very at the forefront of his poetry as well. Lewis has several what could be described as solar poems. Four showcase the metallurgical influence, according to Ward. The planets, obviously, and a pageant played in vain. There's a long analysis of this in the Planet Narnia. Noon's intensity, it's in the name, and then skazons. At this point, it might be a good idea for you to hit pause and look at the handout for this lecture linked in the description if you have not yet, to read the lines, Sol's lines, 38 to 67. So hit pause and we'll resume. If you've read the poem, you'll notice there's a parallels between what we heard in the discarded image and the descriptions in the poem. For example, we hear that Sol engenders mellow wisdom, according to the poem. You may remember from discarded image that the sun makes men wise. The poem speaks about how the sun unbinds burdens, and the discarded image mentions that he makes men liberal. He gives rise to the paradisal. The discarded image says that his sphere is the heaven of theologians. He clears mists from the mind, says the poem. And Lewis's scholarship, his sphere is the heaven of philosophers. Notice that the poem has 6 lines devoted to the metallurgical imagery. 6 lines out of 30. The poem mentions spirit, or references the three senses of the spirit, as we heard and discussed in the first lecture. You remember the first and the second being the psychological or the soul, and then the rational. The poem only briefly touches upon the third sense of spirit, novitas, or new life. But other poems, such as Noon's Intensity and Skazons, they're more explicitly religious. They talk about novitas, especially the poem Skazons, which I'm very familiar with because I use it in one of my lectures on love, where when I analyze Lewis's disagreement with Saint Augustine about love. There's a funny story about that particular poem, Skazons. It was my first or second, probably my second guest lecture at the Oxford University C.S. Lewis Society. I was a visitor, and I read the poem. And afterwards, Walter Hooper, Lewis's secretary, came up to me and told me a story about Skazons, because apparently Lewis had once asked Walter Hooper what his favorite poem was. And Hooper, without naming the poem, goes on to recite the poem, which is Skazons. And Lewis listens to it and says, "Walter, that's beautiful. Who is it by?" And Walter said, "Well, Mr. Lewis, don't you recognize it? It's your poem. It was published in The Pilgrim's Regress." Lewis wrote so much, and he rarely returned to his own work, that it was easy for him to forget, or then he feigned ignorance. Anyway, the point of these poems is that, well, one of the points is that soul transforms baser metals into gold. Soul transforms baser metals into gold. Then the question arises, could it perfect them without destroying them? What does it mean to transform one thing into another? And there's a strong case to be made that Lewis adhered to this principle of gratia non tollit naturam, sed perficit, which is grace does not destroy nature, but perfects it. And this is from Augustine, developed and adopted by Aquinas. Now, there's huge implications to this principle if you adhere to it on all sorts of things, including human loves. And that was the argument in the paper I gave at the society years ago, that when, according to Lewis, when human loves are touched by divine love or grace, they're not destroyed. Rather, they become more themselves, not less. And when human persons similarly kind of spiritualize or sanctify progressively, they actually become more what they were meant to be, not less. This is illustrated even on the sexual level in Lewis's book, The Great Divorce, where there's a man burdened by some sort of, allegorically or symbolically presented, some sort of perversion, sexual perversion, that's preventing him from flourishing in this area of life. And it's symbolized by a little red lizard that controls the man somehow and whispers into its ear and makes it do things it would not want to do. But long story short, when the lizard is killed, it's not really killed. Rather, it's transformed into a blazing stallion. And even the man who had been a shell of a man due to this dependency or distortion turns into a greater man. So grace does not destroy, but perfects. The solar depictions in Lewis's poetry are all positive. However, Warren observes that in That Hideous Strength, the finale to Lewis's cosmic trilogy, Sol's role or effects are both good and bad. As for its good effects, Ransom, the main character, who has a jovial character to begin with, is augmented by Sol, even physically. We hear of his gold hair, we read of his gold beard. Jane, one of the main characters, again, likens Ransom to wise Solomon, we hear. A solar blend of king and lover and even magician. His voice, we hear, also seemed to be like sunlight and gold. Like gold, not only as gold is beautiful, but as it is heavy. As for the bad effects, Bracton College, there really is no Bracton College in Cambridge or Oxford, but in the story, it's the antithesis of St. Anne's. The fellows at Bracton College, their greed, their dormant greed, responds to the solar influence negatively. This love of money is the root of a lot of evil, as the phrase puts it. So in their case, it's a question of the solar influence improperly received. You remember the planets weren't good or bad in themselves. Their effects can respond to the recipient's character and augment or exacerbate it. Let's turn to the Chronicles of Narnia itself. Sol in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And you remember Ward often talks about the planetary poeima first, the imagery, before he moves on to the planetary logos, or the message, and we follow suit. According to Ward, this is the most obvious planet of them all. It's in the name to begin with, the Dawn Treader. Ward believes that out of all of the seven, this is the easiest, the strongest case. This is easy to prove. There's just so much evidence to associate, to connect the planet Sun, Sol, with this particular volume in the Chronicles of Narnia. This is literally the voyage, the journey toward the rising sun. And the intensity of the solar influence progresses as the story unfolds. So much so that the finale is Reepicheep, who says that he will sink his nose to the sunrise if it's the last thing he does. And it is the last thing he does. It so happens that one of Sol's many guises is Apollo Smintheus, or literally Apollo the mouse catcher. Excuse me. The most solar image in this book is drinkable light. It's a very powerful image. What's surprising that the images of heat or brightness are explicitly mentioned hardly. And according to Ward, Lewis is here following John Milton's example. For example, heat is referenced only 3 times. We hear of the air warmer by the day. We hear of nights being very warm. And we hear that the sun was not too hot on one day. As for brightness, there is an increasing contrast or an increasing light contrasted with these sporadic plunges into darkness. The final chapters of the book are about what Ward says, uninterrupted light, the deserved reward of dedicated seekers after luminosity. And in the book we read, every morning when the sun rose out of the sea, the curved prow of the dawn treader stood up right across the middle of the sun. Some thought that the sun looked larger than it looked from Narnia, but others disagreed. Later we read, there was no mistaking it. Later still, the sun, when it came up each morning, was twice, if not 3 times, its usual size. Turning to Sol's metallurgical power. This is the whole episode in chapter 8, you remember, with this inland pool. They find a golden statue, turns out to be one of the lords, Lord Restimar, who was killed by aurification. He turned into gold. The children test the pool with heather. It's dipped, and we hear that the heather becomes purest gold, heavy and soft as lead. Lead, according to Ward, is not just a metallic simile, but it has an astrological, a more sinister meaning, because lead is the metal of Saturn, infortuna major, or fortuna major. Excuse me, infortuna major, the planet of greater misfortune, the planet of calamity and of death. And what happens in the story? The boys begin quarreling, and they snap out of it. They realize that the pool is actually a dangerous place. And Reepicheep says, there is a curse on this place. And he renames it Deathwater Island. Then they see a lion, a golden lion. What's more, nobody dared to ask what it was. They knew it was Aslan. Michael Ward sees the obvious echo to the Gospel of John, chapter 21, verse 12. None of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. I must quote from Planet Narnia itself. Page 111 about this episode. This episode is an example of Lewis's skill in blending romance, medieval astrology, literary and biblical allusion, and his own suppositional allegory. The powers of coordination and translation required to achieve such a sophisticated imaginative mix without overwhelming the narrative, indeed, without making the narrative seem anything other than entirely natural and consistent, should not be underestimated. Other references to Sol's metallurgic powers or the metal gold include the fact that the ship's flag has a golden lion on it. And inside the cabin, there's a flat gold image of Aslan. In all of the other books, it's usually red, not gold. The sun is the sphere of the philosophers, says the discarded image. Of these medieval philosophers, Lewis thinks that Boethius is most prominent. He said that De consolatione philosophiae, the consolation of philosophy, which it is believed was written when Boethius was in prison, was the most influential book, or one of the most influential books written in Latin, according to Lewis's opinion. There is a very good paper out there by a scholar named Olli-Pekka Vainio, Vainio, that analyzes the role of Boethius in Lewis's own philosophy. According to the discarded image, Boethius's treatment of fortuna, of fortune, is stoical and Christian alike, in full harmony of the book of Job and with certain dominical sayings. Reepicheep draws from Boethian wisdom when he comforts Eustace. You remember the sphere of the philosophers, the consolation of philosophy. This is Reepicheep comforting Eustace. He would explain that what had happened to Eustace was a striking illustration of the turn of fortune's wheel, and that if he had Eustace at his own house in Narnia, it was really a hole, not a house, and the dragon's head, let alone his body, would not have fitted in. Eustace is a dragon at this stage of the story. He could show him more than 100 examples of emperors, kings, dukes, knights, poets, lovers, astronomers, philosophers, and magicians who had fallen from prosperity into the most distressing circumstances, and of whom many had recovered and lived happily ever afterwards. It did not, perhaps, seem so very comforting at the time, but it was kindly meant, and Eustace never forgot it. Philosophers and magicians. The word philosopher never reappears in Narnia after this. Reepicheep is the philosopher. He is the lover of wisdom. Sol makes men wise. The poem speaks of broadening eastward, clear and cloudless, and until in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, we read of the unclouded skies, the clear and clearer waters. These are correlatives of growing spiritual wisdom and a genuinely liberal philosophy. A genuinely liberal philosophy. Sol makes men liberal. In Lewis's book, Studies in Words, he discusses 3 levels of the word liberal, and none of them are really the watered down understanding of liberal in today's English as being like ethically liberal, laissez-faire, very few rules, do as you please. None of the 3 relate to this sense of liberal. Rather, etymologically, traditionally, there are 3 levels. The first being liberality means generosity. The second is liberal in the sense of liberal studies. And the third is freedom or gratis, where we get the word grace from. As for the first level, generosity, Caspian is very generous in this story. He makes promises, he releases slaves, he forgives debts, he reimburses folk, and so on. And his liberality in this sense serves freedom. So, in the third sense. In Studies in Words, Lewis writes, liberales are the sort of people who ransom prisoners. As for the second, liberal studies, this means the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, not as a means necessarily or as a stepping stone for something else. But what use is it? Asks Drinian, betraying himself as the illiberal utilitarian character of the story. Use, replied Reepicheep. Use, Captain. If by use you mean filling our bellies and our purses, I confess it will be no use at all. So far as I know, we did not set sail to look for things useful, but to seek honor and adventure. The third level, gratis, not to be paid for, that which frustrates cupidity or greed. The slaver Pug is mentioned in chapter 4, but there are 4 other places which are played out in terms of dragons and their defeats. Sol's forerunner, the Greek god Apollos, famously was a killer of dragons, and he was called Apollo Sauroctonus, literally the lizard slayer. Saura, meaning lizard or serpent or even worm. Dinosaur literally means a monstrous lizard or a monstrous worm. And one wonders whether Sauron, the chief villain in The Lord of the Rings, also derives its name from Saura. First of all, the first of the 4 dragons is the lugubrious dragon in chapter 6. Secondly, Eustace himself, as we heard, turns into a dragon himself after falling asleep on the dead dragon's hoard with greedy dragonish thoughts in his heart. And he's released from this cupidity by Aslan, the spirit of liberation from greed follows, demonstrated by the fact that nobody there desires to then return to the treasure afterwards. Thirdly, there's the sea serpent. And finally, there's the Dawn Treader itself. The Dawn Treader is very much a dragonish vessel. Its bowsprit is a dragon's head. Its sides are like wings, and it's decorated ominously with crimson dragons, we hear. There's a surprise at the end. For Caspian, despite being magnanimous and liberal in the good sense, is not totally immune to the illiberal effects, illiberal motivations caused by Sol. There's the temptation, the ambition at the very end to actually usurp Aslan's country. And we remember he is restrained by near mutiny and Aslan himself. The climax is Aslan as Sol melting away Caspian's greed, according to Ward. At the very end, we read, "Then up came the sun, and at its first rising, they saw it through the wall, and it turned into wonderful rainbow colors. Then they knew that the wall was really a long, tall wave, a wave endlessly fixed in one place, as you may often see at the edge of a waterfall. It seemed to be about 30 feet high, and the current was gliding them swiftly toward it. You might have supposed they would have thought of their danger. They didn't. I don't think anyone could have in their position. For now they saw something not only behind the wave, but behind the sun. They could not have seen even the sun if their eyes had not been strengthened by the water of the last sea. But now they could look at the rising sun and see it clearly and see things beyond it. What they saw, eastward, beyond the sun, was a range of mountains. It was so high that either they never saw the top of it or they forgot it. None of them remember seeing any sky in that direction. And the mountains must really have been outside the world. For any mountains, even a quarter of a 20th of that height ought to have had ice and snow on them. But these were warm and green and full of forests and waterfalls, however high you looked. And suddenly there came a breeze from the east, tossing the top of the wave into foamy shapes and ruffling the smooth water all around them. It lasted only a second or so, but what it brought them in that second, none of those three children will ever forget. It brought both a smell and a sound, a musical sound. Edmund and Eustace would never talk about it afterwards. Lucy could only say, "It would break your heart." "Why?" said I. "Was it so sad?" "Sad? No," said Lucy. No one in that boat doubted that they were seen beyond the end of the world into Aslan's country. This vision is actually not the very end of the book, but the end is that of a kiss of a golden lion on the children's foreheads. And then they find themselves back in the back bedroom in Aunt Alberta's home in Cambridge. Aunt Alberta thinks Eustace has become commonplace, boring. It must have been the influence of those Pevensey children. Ward wonders whether this is a private joke at the expense of Aunt Alberta. The change was not by influence of his cousins, but influenza of Aslan as soul. Let's turn to the solar logos. According to Ward, the poeima logos distinction almost breaks down in this book. Sol's state is confused. And yet, the book is so full of logos, according to Ward, that he chooses just two main messages: Aslan's appearances and Lucy reading from the magician's book. Aslan appears 7 times, and each time he is more solar than previously. First, he appears when he endragoned Eustace, or undragoned Eustace. It happened during the night, and the only sunlight there is sunlight via the moon. There was always this moonlight over and around where the lion went, we hear. The poem says that Sol hurts and humbles, and Eustace, we hear, says, "It hurt, the undragoning. It hurt worse than anything I've ever felt. It hurt like Billy O. And by the way, I'd like to apologize." Secondly, Aslan appears on Deathwater Island. Though the sun has already set, Aslan shines as if he were in bright sunlight. The third and the fourth happen on the island of Duffers. Lucy is looking for Koryakin's spell book, and she sees a picture of Aslan in the book, painted such a bright gold that it seemed to be coming towards her out of the page. And then suddenly Aslan is in the room. "I have been here all the time," he said, "but you have just made me visible." The fifth appearance of Aslan, according to Ward, is a variation of the Alexander technique. You remember the distinction between enjoyment and contemplation, looking along the beam and looking at the beam. At this stage of the story, the Dawn Treader is lost in dark country, trapped in this pitch blackness. And Lucy, in her desperation, prays. And then a tiny speck of light becomes visible, and a broad beam of light fell from it upon the ship. Lucy looked along the beam and presently saw something in it. At first, it looked like a cross. Then it looked like an aeroplane. Then it looked like a kite. And at last, with a whirring of wings, it was right overhead and was an albatross. It circled 3 times round the mast and then perched for an instant on the crest of the gilded dragon at the prow. It called out in a strong, sweet voice what seemed to be words, though no one understood them. After that, it spread its wings, rose, and began to fly slowly ahead, bearing a little to starboard. Drinian steered after it, not doubting that it offered good guidance. But no one except Lucy knew that as it circled the mast, it had whispered to her, "Courage, dear heart." And the voice, she felt sure, was Aslan's. And with the voice, a delicious smell breathed in her face. In a few moments, the darkness turned into a grayness ahead, and then, almost before they dared to begin hoping, they had shot out into the sunlight and were in the warm blue world again. Here, Lucy is practicing enjoyment, looking along things, and it expands her vision. She sees what others do not, and even hears what others do not. The image of Christ as an albatross is from Coleridge, and Lewis was perfectly aware of this. Ward says on page 117 that it's very suggestive. Is that Aslan found in a shaft of sunlight, his status as a solar deity becoming clearer and clearer. The sixth appearance of Aslan is a minor one. There's a lull before daybreak. He becomes alive to Caspian on the boat in the cabin's flat gold image. And this humbles Caspian, humility again, who is white-faced and tearful. Finally, at the very end of the world, sun by this time is so proximate that it becomes albescent, not golden, so shading into a white. A new color scheme in mysterious field of lilies is presented to the children. Whiteness shot with faintest color of gold, spread around them on every side. And the final image is a lamb. You can't get more biblical than that. A lamb who invites them for breakfast. This is a biblical allusion, completing the solar images of Aslan as a cross, an aeroplane, kite, albatross, and lamb. Ward finds it a bit odd that the cross is relegated, or is it relegated, back several chapters in the book before this finale as an albatross and a lamb. What kind of theological rationale might have been governing Lewis? We'll get to that very soon. Now, the second main logos, according to Ward, is Lucy reading of the Book of Spells. It's more like a story that she's reading than a spell, because we hear that it's the loveliest story Lucy has ever read. It's clearly the gospel story. The word gospel comes from the words good spell. Shall I ever be able to read that story again? Will you tell it to me, Aslan? Oh, do, oh, do, oh, do. Indeed, yes, I will tell it to you for years and years. There's a danger to solar imagery. The danger is ultra mysticism, hyper mysticism of endless space, of the diffusion of individuality, of the erosion of the material almost. Religiously, a Christian heresy is Docetism, Docetism. And this is the understanding which has been deemed false, a heresy according to the church, is that Christ, Jesus, only appeared to be human. He wasn't really human. So this is the opposite heresy of the heresy that thinks that Christ was not a God, that Christ was only a human. The Docetism says that Christ was actually only God that appeared to be a human. Now, the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe roots Christ in a furry beast, very fleshy, very tangible, who romps and who battles. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader emphasizes his universality and transcendence. So both the man and the god. So one wonders, did Lewis want to avoid a Docetist representation or interpretation of Aslan in The Voyage of Dawn Treader, with the inherent danger of strong solar imagery? And perhaps, this is speculative, but Ward suggests that that is why the cross comes early in the story, because these Christological dangers inherent in solar imagery that are increasingly used, they need to be somehow pegged early on, prevented from soaring or floating into hyper mysticism. And he sees an analogy with the order of the Gospels in the New Testament. There are four, and the first three, Mark, Luke, and Matthew, are called the Synoptic Gospels, and they're more down to earth compared to the fourth one, John's Gospel, which is much more mystical, even poetic. At the end of the story, Edmund asks Aslan, "Are you there in our world too, sir?" And Aslan replies, "I am." I am is the divine title that is revealed to Moses in the Old Testament, and which is then in the New Testament redeployed in John's Gospel in these various I am sayings. And the most famous of these I am sayings is this one: I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life, which is sometimes translated as eternal life. Did you spot the fallacy? Again, I committed at least one. Where was it? And which one was it? We can rule out two. If I committed the argument from offense or poisoning the well, it wasn't deliberate, but I could have. What was the deliberate fallacy? Did you spot it?